Oh, hello, I'm Burt Green, this is the Burt Locker. It's a mixed martial arts show. This week I'm just recapping the last couple of MMA events in the UFC, just in case you missed them, you want to just catch the highlights of what actually went on. Going to be looking a little bit at, MMA news as well. There hasn't been too much going on. Most of the Will Conor McGregor fight, won't he? Anyways, let's crack on, because I did forget to recap UFC Jacksonville, which was 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to recap that as well. The highlights from that card and from this past weekend's card, UFC Vegas 76. So we're starting off in UFC Jacksonville. One guy I do want to give a shout out to, Trevor Peek. He's still my boy, right? He might have come up short because, look, Chepe was fantastic, to be fair. But I would watch those two fight every week. How that didn't get fight of the night is kind of unbelievable. Because, look, I do understand the main event, Topuria did do a very good job, and it was a good fight. Him and Emmett both put on a great performance. But the guys on the prelims shouldn't be competing with, like, the top ranked guys, like the main events, for performance of the night bonuses. That was a fight of the night. I think they should have a fight of the night on the prelims and a fight of the night main card. That's just how I feel like it should be done, because it just gives some of these guys who are on the lower, monetary contracts to just make a little bit of extra money. I'm sure they probably got some bonuses anyway. I know Dana White does give out a lot of unseen bonuses. I know that happens because many fighters allude to those. Michael Bisping on his podcast talks about he got loads of bonuses that weren't actually kind of noted on the bonus sheets, if that makes sense. So I reckon they probably got a little something, because that fight was insane. Go back and watch that one. Trevor Peek against Chepe. That was fantastic. Yeah, really, really good fun. Zumagulov, he lost another split decision, UFC Jacksonville. Come on, man. That's 3 split decisions in a row. That is rough. That is rough. Tabitha Ricci, my girl, getting it done. Oh, do love her. She is fantastic. She is possibly my favourite fighter right now. She ticks every single box. Excellent fighter. Lovely to look at. Just really, really has it all, in my opinion. Rebeski gets it done. I thought it was Rebecki, but it's actually Rebeski, so apologies for that. Really good KO. Absolutely vicious, honestly. Look, I wasn't the only one who got his name wrong. DC got his name wrong as well, so before you start having a go at me for pronouncing his name wrong, I do understand now that it is Rebeski. Brendan Allen against Bruno Silva was absolute chaos for as long as it lasted. Look, I'm a huge fan of both of those guys. Bruno is still such a dangerous guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again. But my God, Allen looked legit there. He looked absolutely brilliant. Bright future for both of those guys, honestly. David Onama, he looked really fantastic. Great looking KO. He was very, very patient. That was what I took away from that performance. Very slick, very patient, because he looked like he was getting outworked a little bit, but then, he kind of slowed the pace of the fight down to his level, and when he started doing that, man, he was picking every shot. His accuracy was really, really impressive. Lane versus Taffer. Now, I was watching this. I was actually at the pub, and I was watching it on my phone, and I couldn't really see how bad the eye poke was. That might be one of the worst eye pokes I've ever seen. I can totally see why they called that off, honestly. It was when you saw the blood coming out of his eye, that's when you knew, okay, that's a bad one, isn't it? That's not ideal. Hopefully they can run that back. Hopefully Taffer's eye is okay, more importantly. I really hope he hasn't sustained permanent damage from that, because it was a really, really bad one. Hebas versus Barber was a lot of fun. Hebas, she was just missing too much. She was landing at about a high 30s, early 40% clip. That's not good enough. You've got to hit the target more than that. Barber's she's so tough. She's so dangerous. I'm looking forward to seeing Barbara again, honestly. She looked really, really good. It was a lot of fun. Topuria versus Emmett. It got fight of the night. As I said earlier, I think that Peek versus Chepe should have gotten fight of the night. It maybe have fight of the night prelims, fight of the night main card. I don't know. Either way, Topuria, he's extremely legit. I don't know. Those Georgians, man, they're made of something different. They really are. I don't know if he's Spanish or German. I'm sure I read somewhere that he was fighting out of Germany, but he's fighting out of Spain. Either way, he is a real problem. Like Topuria, one more impressive win like that, you have to put him into a title shot. if not into a title shot at this point. He just looks really, really dangerous in every area. To beat somebody like Josh Emmett in the way that he did is very impressive, because Josh Emmett is about as legit as they come in that division. It really is. Anyways, then we move on to this last week's card, which was UFC Vegas 76. Elvis Brenner, unbelievable. He's made of something different, man. Like, he just literally, he was, I've not seen a comeback like that in a very long time. He was blood all over the place. He'd been elbowed to high heaven. He's fighting an absolute killer like Kutateladze, right? Who is an absolute murderer, destroyer, another Georgian guy, right? And he was, Kutateladze was winning very handily, but then Elvis Brenner just kept himself in it, and he has lots of power in his hands, as we saw. Managed to just, land a few and he got the knockout. Unbelievable fight. Absolutely unbelievable. I don't know how he managed to stay in there, because there was so many points where I thought, yeah, this is the end here. This is the end. Yeah, so fair play to him for staying in there. And that, yeah, I mean, it was bloody. It was very impressive to watch from a violent standpoint. If you enjoy that, let's not pretend. A lot of us watch the UFC. We enjoy a bit of violence. So fights like that are well worth watching. It was a rough comeback for Kevin Lee, feeding him to a monster like Rinat. I mean, that was honestly, when I saw that matchup, I was like, this is he's stepped out of the UFC. He's had one win against Diego Sanchez, and now they're feeding him to this absolute monster. And it was feeding him as well. It took, what, like 20 seconds? Not even. Yeah, that was rough. That was really rough. I've seen lots of posts saying fighter released Kevin Lee. I don't know if he has been released. I don't know if they're real or not. But I mean, it wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me, honestly. Nursultan Lizaboev. Wow, he's certainly made his presence known. A 6'5" middleweight. That's a problem, isn't it? A 6'5" middleweight who's an excellent kickboxer. What? What even? Look, I would still like to see more of Bruno Ferreira, because I thought he looked very dangerous early on, and he's a very dangerous fighter, Bruno Ferreira. So the fact that Lizaboev was able to knock him out like that just really goes to show how good he is. And yeah, 6'5" and having that skill set, that's a real problem at middleweight, really is. Benoit Saint-Denis, absolutely brilliant. Huge fan of his. He's the one that was in like the French Special Forces, got loads of medals and stuff. So a night in the octagon for him is like a night off, effectively. And he's just hard as nails. And grappling, he's insane. And he showed really good kickboxing in this one as well. His body kicks were vicious. Absolutely. You see the welts on the dude's side were really horrible. And then, yeah, once he gets you down to the floor, it's kind of academic. He will find a way of strangling you. He has got a squeeze on him, because he had it over the chin, really. But the squeeze is so hard that you're either going to tap or your jaw's going to pop, and you don't want that jaw to pop. You just don't want that. So yeah, fair play, brilliant. And then you had a masterful performance from Mr. Sean Strickland. I salute you, sir. I mean, like I said, in my pick, I did pick the other dude, and I didn't want to pick the other dude, because I did say I'd be cheering for Sean Strickland. But I was so happy. That was a vintage Sean Strickland performance, just in time for the July 4th weekend. I'm sure he's going to have a brilliant July 4th now, but he looked outstanding. And that is the kind of Sean Strickland that I like to see, because I think Sean Strickland, he is good for the sport. He really is. Look, I know he says a lot of things that are inflammatory, and he uses terminology that is designed to rile people up effectively, but he's not all the way wrong. Like, his main focus, like his main kind of point, when you like peel away all the terminology and the bullshit that he's using just to be inflammatory, when you peel that away, his core point of really people should be paid enough to support a family on one income so that kids aren't raising themselves on social media. I think that core point is hard to argue with, isn't it? I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's certainly things. Well, I suppose it's always hindsight, isn't it? But either way, his performance was outstanding. It's just how you saw the other guy break. You saw Magomedov just break, and yeah, that was nice. That was fun to watch, because he was throwing all these kicks early on, and I said that I was watching it, he threw so many big kicks, and Strickland, his timing and his footwork is just so good. He's deceptively good because he doesn't use big movements to get out of the way, because big movements take up big energy, and that was the juxtaposition there, because you saw Strickland, he was getting just out of the way, and that's how good his footwork is, because he spars every day. He could do 30 rounds if he wanted to, and that's what makes him so dangerous. He was just out of the way, getting just out of the way of his head kicks and the body kicks, but Magomedov, he was just kept on throwing them. I was like, that's going to take up a lot of energy. And then round 2, you could see he was just breathing heavy. And that was when Strickland was like, okay, now it's my turn, right? You are the hammer. Let's see what it's like when you're the nail. And it turns out Magomedov wasn't good as the nail, was he? Because he wilted. He was just, every time he was getting hit, he kept on looking at the clock. He had nothing. Like, fatigue will make a coward of any man. And it did that night. Like, Strickland was masterful. He waited, he was patient, and then when he was going in, he was landing at such a high percentage clip rate. He really was. He's a very accurate striker. And, man, absolutely brilliant. I salute Sean Strickland. That was wonderful. I look forward to seeing... I'd like to see him against Adesanya. I would like to see that fight. Because Strickland, he's one of those characters, man. He's just... Like, he's a real fighter. Like, he enjoys fighting. He gets a kick out of it. And, yeah, you need those kind of guys. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. So then we'll move into the news. But first of all, if I could just ask, could you hit subscribe for me? Really appreciate that. Thank you. So, the only thing really in the news is that Conor McGregor did not submit a USADA test. So, what does that mean? Everybody is asking. Well, it means that, subject to an exemption, Conor McGregor is not going to fight this calendar year. Not going to happen. However, USADA have granted exceptions before, for big stars in the past, looking at Brock Lesnar, UFC 200. And then I started thinking, actually, is Conor in any big rush to get back in there? Are they in a big rush to get him back in there from the UFC standpoint? Or is it possible that they may be lining up his return for a UFC 300? That could be on the cards, because it's just, he's not fighting this calendar year. It's not going to happen. He's not getting down to 155 this calendar year. Look at the size of him. He's so big. Yeah, I don't know. And I'll tell you what, the Ultimate Fighter this season, from a coaching standpoint, it's not been great watching if you're a Conor McGregor fan. Good Lord. Because he can't seem to... His team cannot buy a win right now. What is he, 0-5? Yeah, that's not ideal. But he did pick all the prospects. And I did think this. I was like, well, the thing is, they call them UFC veterans on the other side, but they're not old. They're not old guys, right? They're just guys that had a couple of fights and maybe got cut. They're still young, in their prime, but they have way more experience than these prospects coming up. And for the most part, are just way better. So when Conor picked the prospects, I was like, I don't know, that might not be a great move. Because Chandler then ended up with both weight classes of the veterans, and they're just better. They're just, for the most part, they're people that I do remember, and I think, yeah, like, they're pretty good. Like Roosevelt Roberts, I was like, yeah, I remember him. He's pretty good. Like, he had a couple of tough losses. That's fair. And then he got cut, but I was expecting to see him come back into the UFC anyway. And you got him going against these poor, young, like, up-and-comers that have never seen UFC competition. They've never faced UFC competition. And it's becoming very, very obvious very quickly that these veterans that, got cut from the UFC they're just better. They're just better. Which is unfortunate for Conor, because, I don't know, he's probably not that bothered. I don't know. Either way, speaking of Conor, I've got one troll of the week this week, and oh my god, did it make me laugh. But yeah, it's a real good one. So like that classic one where you've got Captain America and like they're pulling him back. So anyway, starts on why won't millionaire Conor McGregor ever visit the Titanic wreck? Why? He's terrified of subs. I've got to be honest, I laughed my ass off when I got sent that. I was just like, yeah, that's a good one. Because obviously there was that billionaire sub that got submersible, whatever it was, that imploded, which is, I mean, it's something, I guess. It made the news, distracted people from whatever your government is doing right now. They had that to just draw your attention away in the news cycle for a few hours. I don't know. I'm so cynical when it comes to this kind of thing now. I'm like, what are they trying to distract everybody from? What's really going on? I don't know. Putting my tinfoil hat on. Tinfoil cowboy hat time. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got time for this week. Huge card this week in the UFC. Obviously, Volkanovski against Yair Rodriguez in the main event, and that's what I'm going to be looking at doing my casuals guides. I'm going to look at doing a couple of deeper dives on the Patreon as well. And until next time, keep all those odds long and those bets terrible. Thank you for watching.